Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I am Chris Kowalski, and I have been the coordinator for the James C. Kirby Endowed Scholarships and Fellowships for most of the 20 years that we are celebrating this evening. It is wonderful to see so many people gathered in this beautiful setting to mark such an important milestone. I am particularly pleased that so many Kirby scholars have traveled from near and far to be here tonight. This is a testament to the bonds that unite this special group and to the relationship that exists between Jim Kirby and the group of Villanovans who have benefited from the scholarship that bears his name. I have been fortunate to work in a few different roles at Villanova: in university advancement, the office of the president, and government relations and external affairs. And while coordinating the Kirby Scholars Program has never been in my job title or job description, it is one of the most important and meaningful aspects of the work that I do on behalf of the university. As coordinator of this program, I have the privilege of visiting Schuylkill County at least twice a year to generate interest in Villanova and the scholarship. I provide support to the students on campus, coordinate opportunities to bring the group together throughout the year, and I oversee the Kirby Fellowships, an amazing opportunity to see the world that is available to each scholar. But as with most things at Villanova, none of this is accomplished by just one person. I am fortunate to be part of a team of staff, Team Kirby, which devotes an incredible amount of time throughout each year to ensure the success of the program and, more importantly, the success of each scholar at Villanova and beyond. Many members of this team are here tonight, and I'm glad that they can join in the celebration of the program that they have helped make so successful. As I mentioned, there is a lot that goes into coordinating the Kirby Scholars Program, but no other aspect of my job brings me more joy. Perhaps maybe some of those victories with the Lancaster Avenue development, but crosses on the bridge. We'll talk about that later. It is incredibly rewarding to see these young people evolve from tentative freshmen to confident seniors to cosmopolitan world travelers. At Villanova, our scholars immerse themselves in the experiences and opportunities available to them. They are members of the Blue Key Society, the Villanova Band, Villanova Track and Field. They participate in the St. Thomas of Villanova Scholars, the Day of Service, Special Olympics Pennsylvania Fall Festival, and lead service trips during semester breaks. They are peer counselors and tutors. These experiences in the classroom and out shape their time at Villanova in different ways, and their time at Villanova shapes their paths after graduation. Teachers, doctors, nurses, accountants, lawyers, masters and PhD candidates, each alumnus, nearly 40 at this point, has taken their gifts into the world and applied them in different ways. But without exception, every Kirby scholar remains fiercely loyal to the scholarship program and to Mr. Kirby. They recognize the opportunities they have been given and want to make sure there are young people lined up each year who are eager to follow in their footsteps and ready to carry on the Kirby Scholar tradition. The success of the Kirby Scholars Program and the implementation of Mr. Kirby's vision is due to the shared commitment from Team Kirby on campus, the current scholars, and the Kirby Scholar alumni. The program is vibrant because it reflects the energy and enthusiasm of those that it has impacted the most. And that's why, as we gather tonight to mark 20 years, the Kirby Scholars Program at Villanova University is just getting started. It is now my pleasure to introduce Frank Cicatano, who will deliver the invocation.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Frank Cicatano, and I'm a 2016 graduate of Villanova's College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and a 2012 graduate of Monterey Area High School. I want to begin this evening by first expressing how honored and humble I am to stand in front of all of you to open tonight's celebration. The crowd I see in front of me is more than just a group of scholarship recipients. It is a group of individuals that seized a tremendous opportunity and turned it into their own unique personal journey towards success. Each of you represents the embodiment of the vision that Mr. Kirby saw when he began this scholarship program 20 years ago. Together, we have grown into a successful, powerful, and experienced network of Villanova students and alumni. Most importantly, thanks to the inspiration from Mr. Kirby and the support staff at Villanova, we have become a family. To officially open our anniversary celebration, or our family reunion, I would like to invite everyone to bow their heads as we ask for God's blessing. God, source of all inspiration and imagination, pour down your blessing upon us this evening. We gather to celebrate our connection with each other through Villanova University and through our upbringing rooted in Schuylkill County, and to give thanks to Mr. James Kirby for giving us the opportunity to be a Wildcat. Together, we ask that you bless us with happiness and good health, as well as strength and inspiration to serve others through our actions. In solidarity with all other Villanovans, help us to live the Augustinian virtues of Veritas, Unitas, and Caritas. Please bless this meal that we are about to share this evening, and hold close to yourself the many who will go without. May we acknowledge your presence within us and among us. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy your dinner.
A 2012 graduate of Monterey Area High School and a 2016 graduate of Villanova University, where he earned a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering. Jake currently is working as a designer with Alfred Benish & Company in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Jake.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Mr. Kirby. Good evening. Kirby Scholars are the luckiest people on the planet. We have been offered opportunities others can only dream about, and we have the privilege of having at least two places that we call home. Schuylkill County is a place where family is held paramount, and commitment and loyalty are fostered in a uniquely fierce way. Our hometowns have earned a reputation of hard work and humbleness. For all the negative publicity that Schuylkill County receives, nothing makes me prouder than knowing that the Kirby Scholars are the shining example of good that our county is capable of producing. The antagonist in Dr. Seuss's classic, Oh, the Places You'll Go, is The Waiting Place. Mr. Kirby gifted this wonderful book to all the Kirby Scholars at the time as a guide to the great balancing act of life. Being Kirby Scholars, we have made a commitment to ourselves to avoid the waiting place at all costs. For some, the waiting place becomes Schuylkill County. We were more fortunate. As we left Schuylkill County with the brains in our heads and the feet in our shoes, we had choices to make, and so we did choose. We chose Villanova. There was excitement and unknown, but through all the changes, Villanova felt familiar. The emphasis Villanova places on growing together in the company of your peers is similar to the environment we all had the good fortune to grow up in. Villanova offers a smooth transition into a new phase of life, and joining a family of Kirby Scholars that were eager for more members is not a bad perk either. Along with all the places you'll go, Mr. Kirby has also given us another guide. As all excellent leaders do, Mr. Kirby himself is the example of what a Kirby Scholar is and could ever hope to be. He holds firm and true to his humble roots. He used a Villanova education to make a difference in the world, and as we all know, he generously gives back to his community in various ways. Mr. Kirby is the model Kirby Scholar, and with his precedent, 20 years worth of Schuylkill County's finest have followed him. Thank you, Mr. Kirby, for making us all eager and excited for events like this, and thank you for giving us all the opportunity to represent our homes in the way that you have. Schuylkill County and Villanova have given us more than we will ever be able to understand. The opportunity to be a Kirby Scholar is just as underestimated as it is incredible. We are the examples of all that is good in Schuylkill County, and I'm honored to be a part of this amazing group of people. Remember that if you are ever left in a lurch or stuck in a slump, there are Kirby Scholars everywhere to pick you up from the dump. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Next to speak is Caitlin Karavich, a 2010 graduate of North Schuylkill High School and a 2014 graduate of Villanova University. Caitlin is the first Kirby nurse, currently working as a charge nurse at Penn State Health Milton S. Hershey Medical School in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Pardon me. I always joke that this isn't my normal crowd, so pardon if my anxieties come through a little bit. So, all right, so getting started. In 2009, I had the opportunity to visit Villanova University for the very first time. It was sort of an unexpected trip as we were looking at colleges in the surrounding area. In fact, I had been considering Villanova, but due to financial concerns, I hadn't put the university high on my radar. I can remember the very first time I stepped foot on that campus. Why? Because I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. I still feel this way every single time I visit. I knew it was where I belonged. And thanks to the Curvy Scholarship, I can make this dream of mine a reality. As many know, a scholarship is beneficial as it helps to relieve the weight of future financial burdens. The Curvy Scholarship, though, holds so much more than monetary value. It gives you the opportunity to meet some incredible people who become a second family in your new home. It gives you the chance to journey in pursuit of self-discovery and experience the world through your own eyes as you take part in the fellowship. Lastly, the scholarship molds you into becoming the very best Villanovan you can be as you are exposed to a culture dedicated to the service of others. Have you picked up on the common theme I've been alluding to? Opportunity. An opportunity can be defined as a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something. Villanova provides their student community with endless opportunities. It is up to that individual, though, to take advantage of this and choose what path they are willing to take. Villanova gave me the ability to create a future for myself that could have otherwise been impossible. The community made me strive to be a leader and give back to those in need as I participated in volunteer experiences such as Special Olympics and St. Thomas Villanova Day of Service. Being a Villanovan meant that I had a chance to embark on a path that I had dreamed about and acquire an education from one of the top universities in Pennsylvania. I had the chance to practice my nursing rotations at some of the most renowned hospitals in the country, such as CHOP and Jefferson. I was also able to take my nursing curriculum abroad as I traveled to Ghana and Ireland. Had I not chosen Villanova, I would have missed out on meeting some amazing people and creating everlasting memories that I still hold with me today. So, who am I today? I have been recognized as a leader as I am a primary educator to new nurses and a charge nurse who oversees up to 48 patients and 18 staff members on a single shift. I'm the one who holds a wife's hand when her husband is dying. I'm the one who texts a patient at night when their family is absent. I'm the one who advocates for my patient when they do not understand their plan of care. I love my job, even on the roughest of days. I am blessed to be able to help those in need. My patients teach me a great deal every day and help me continue to be the kind and caring person that I have grown to love. These core values, community service, leadership, and compassion for others, make up the foundation of Villanova University and have shaped me into the person that is standing before you today. It is an honor to have completed my undergraduate journey at Villanova University, and I'm thankful every single day for the Curvy family and Villanova for giving me the opportunity to do so. Once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Steve Hamola. Steve graduated from North Schuylkill High School in 2006 and is the first Curvy scholar to come from a school beyond Monomoy Area High School. Steve graduated from Villanova University in 2010 and from Temple University's James E. Beasley School of Law in 2013. He is a practicing attorney with the law offices of Mark W. House in Annapolis, Maryland.
I was asked to talk about my fellowship experience tonight. For those of you who may not know, the Curvy Scholarship, much like Law and Order, is comprised of two separate yet equally important programs. The Scholarship, which provides financial assistance for students to attend Villanova and learn about their field of study, and the Fellowship, which provides extremely generous funding for Curvy scholars to travel anywhere in the world to enhance their Villanova experience. My fellowship took me to Africa, where I spent several weeks working with 5 lion cubs through a local conservation program in Zambia, studying them, caring for them, introducing them to the concepts of hunting and self-sufficiency, and becoming increasingly convinced that I would be their next meal. I went on to take a 2-week canoe safari in Zimbabwe, covering hundreds of miles on the Zambezi River, sleeping under the stars in mesh tents on the shores of the river, and deciding that maybe hippos or crocodiles were the real betting favorites to eat me. I made a 3-day stop in Egypt as an opportunity to inject some history into my trip, exploring the pyramids and Cairo, before spending my final 10 days in Tanzania climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, culminating in spending a night camped out in the crater of the volcano at 19,000 feet. Any one of those experiences on its own would be life-changing, and they were. I know that my friends and family are sick of hearing me talk about them. But if you look around tonight, you'll find dozens of current and former Curvey scholars, each one of whom can tell you about their own life-changing experiences through this program, whether in Europe, Africa, Asia, or some other far-flung corner of the world. I think every one of them will tell you that they came back a different person than when they left. These experiences are more than just something to put into a photo album. They're a catalyst for personal growth. As much as I imagined visiting Africa as a kid, growing up in a small coal mining community, and as much as I told myself that I would travel and explore the world as I got older, I'm not sure that I ever really fully grasped that I was capable of doing it, that those distant plans could actually become a reality. The Curvey Fellowship made the rest of the world, Africa included, seem more accessible. The experience of traveling by myself has made me a more confident person. If I can handle spending overnights in empty airports in Ethiopia and Kenya, I can handle my 3-hour layover in Minneapolis. If I can get over my indecisiveness and take that first step towards planning a trip to Africa, I know that I can do the same thing when it comes to planning a career or buying a home. And if I can spend 80 days with no cell phone and my nearest friends and family being thousands of miles away, I can handle packing up and moving to a new city with no safety net. Mr. Curvey's program has resulted in a community of young adults, and increasingly not so young adults, who, as a direct result of his fellowships, are more confident, more worldly, and more driven to achieve their aspirations than we were when we stepped foot on campus at age 18. We'll carry our experiences and the lessons that we've learned for the rest of our lives. And I know that I speak for all of us when I say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Mr. Curvey.
Next to speak is Adrian Fallon, a 2002 graduate of Monterey Area High School and a 2006 graduate of Villanova University. Adrian was the recipient of the scholarship when it was expanded the first time in 2002 to go from one student at a time to one each year. She and her family live in Portland, Oregon, where she works as an Oracle HCM architect at Mars Veterinary Health. Adrian.
I was asked to speak about my career tonight. My career, while important and fulfilling to me, isn't really anything special. I work for the veterinary arm of Mars. Yes, the same people who make Snickers are also vaccinating your pets. Little known fact. As an HR process architect, and as I'm 2.5 months into this new position, if any of you heard that title and thought, I know exactly what her job is, I'd love to ask you some questions after this. What has been special, what has been unique and fortunate about my career is the fact that I have had an incredible mentor along the way. Though in a room full of Mr. Curvey's loved ones and his scholarship recipients, I suppose I need to qualify the use of the term unique. In fact, if I just pause here for a second, I'll bet that each of you can call to mind the best piece of career advice Mr. Curvey has shared with you. Go ahead, I'll wait. Do you have it? If you don't, you're like me. You're really lucky, and you actually have too many Mr. Curvey-isms floating around in your head to choose just one. I'll share with you my top 3. The first one we've all heard in our question and answer sessions with Mr. Kirby. If your boss asks you to do 1 and 2, you do 1, 2, and 3. This isn't groundbreaking stuff. It's just plain good advice. And it's served me well at every step of my career. Second, I've never taken a job I knew how to do. Mr. Kirby, I remember being just a few years out of college when you shared this insight with us. I really didn't know how to do any job back then. But it became my mantra when I crafted my resume and prepped for interviews. He wasn't saying fake it till you make it. He was saying that growth and risk and a belief in your own ability to step up to a challenge, those are the real qualifications for success in any job. And finally, and simply, listen. About a year ago, I asked a question at a Kirby Scholar event, one that I thought would come off as innocuous. Mr. Kirby, I have been working in my field for several years now, and I'm starting to feel stuck. Do you have any advice for me? That day, Mr. Kirby did share some advice. But remember, I'm only telling you my top 3. The bigger lesson was in the way Mr. Kirby really listened to that question. What was said and what was implied. And he followed it up with a phone call where he listened again. We exchanged a handful of phone calls over the next few months, aimed at getting me unstuck. In each, he listened far more than he spoke. He'd ask a question, let me ramble on until I had got everything out. He'd repeat back the key points, and only then would he offer up advice. I did eventually get unstuck, and right around that time, Mr. Kirby shared some notes from his forthcoming book, and my eyes went straight to the section on common sense. It was all about listening, communicating, observing. If a man with as much experience and wisdom to share as Mr. Kirby is putting a premium on listening, then that's a skill we should all see as worth honing. I'll just end by taking a moment to thank you, Mr. Kirby, for 16 years of incredible advice. I can't imagine my life without all the ways your generosity has enriched it.
All right, thank you, Adrian. Next up is Taylor Lindenmuth. Taylor graduated from North Schuylkill High School in 2015 and is a current junior at Villanova, majoring in communication.
I love the first week of April, not because that's when the Final Four and the national championship take place, but because that's when we finally find out which accepted students have been awarded the Kirby Scholarship. As soon as I find out, I run to the bookstore to get the recipients from North Schuylkill, my high school, a gift. I deliver the gifts to them when I'm home shortly after for the play. I do this because after I found out I was awarded the Kirby Scholarship, Mara Gownley gave me a gift. It was such a kind, simple gesture that really meant so much to me and was really indicative of the kind of community I would be entering into at Villanova. As a freshman, the Kirby community on campus welcomed me with open arms. And then the game started. Jake Holman created this game where we had to take pictures of each other and with each other, and I believe he intended it to be a bonding activity for the Kirbys, but it was a cutthroat competition. Even Will D. Cat, Jay Wright, and Father Peter participated. While the competition was fierce, the bonding was real. Getting a selfie with someone was an instant conversation starter, and I had never felt closer to the Kirby community than when we were playing the game. I felt at home here at Villanova because of the Kirby community. I knew I didn't have to walk all the way to Peacock Hall at Dundale to work because Michael McHale was also going there. I knew I didn't have to eat alone because I could send a message in the GroupMe and I'm sure someone was free and could eat with me. From the moment I stepped on this campus at Candidates Day, I never felt anything but at home with this curvy community. Now I've been deemed Curvy Mom, a job I proudly accept, and I look forward to the traditions started by Curvy scholars that came before me, like the Day of Service. Mariah Siccioni led the first ever Curvy Scholars group at the St. Thomas of Villanova Day of Service, and now it's an annual tradition. It's a great way for the Curvy community to welcome our new members and give back to the community that we are so fortunate to be part of. When I found out I received this Curvy scholarship, I was in AP History with Mr. Kuthi. He said to me, "Well, that's where you're gonna go, right?" And he immediately began to rattle off a list of all of the Curvy scholars from North Schuylkill that he taught, which I'm pretty sure was almost all of them. These people were the people that I mostly never knew but always looked up to. Now I know them, and I've learned about what the Curvy scholars are doing all over the country and how they've each flourished in their own way. The success I've witnessed among the Curvy scholars has encouraged me to work hard and pursue my passions. I'm humbled to have the opportunity to learn and grow alongside the people I've looked up to, and hopefully one day be a role model for Curvy scholars to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Our next speaker is Maura Gownley, a 2014 graduate of North Schuylkill High School. Maura is set to graduate from Villanova in less than a month with a degree in communication. And earlier this spring, she represented Villanova in the quartet that sang the national anthem at the Final Four in San Antonio. Maura.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Maura Gownley, and I'm a senior communication major and English minor graduating this May. For many students, the days approaching graduation can be very daunting. Questions like, where am I going to work? Am I prepared for a real job? Or what if I'm not happy? Can crowd the mind of a new graduate. But not me. I am unfazed by the unknown because I am fortunate enough to graduate from Villanova University. And I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the generous Curvy Scholarship. The benefit from this scholarship does not stop at receiving a quality, rewarding, and enriching education at one of the country's top universities. That is only where it begins. Having the ability to afford Villanova through scholarship has been the most important stepping stone of my entire life because it has undoubtedly been the catalyst for greater opportunities. Certainly, Villanova's academic rigor has prepared me for the workplace. However, Villanova's values and commitment to a liberal arts education will allow me to succeed in the workplace. My time here is a testament to how valuable an education from Villanova really is. Throughout my 4 years, I've completed 6 internships at companies such as Comcast Corporation, QVC, Bryan Communications, and even the Secretariat for Communications at the Vatican. I have no doubts that these opportunities would not have been possible had I been at any other college or university. With every achievement and every new adventure I experience here at Villanova, I know that it always stems from the Curvy Scholarship. The confidence I have in my postgraduate career is only possible because of Mr. Curvy's confidence in me. Though I am speaking about my own experiences, I know that it is true for the rest of the Curvy scholars when I say that we want to make you proud. We want you to know that your investment in us is worthwhile. We want you to know and understand the magnitude of your kindness. Mr. Curvy, you have not only assisted my professional life, you have assisted my personal life in more ways than one. Most notably, you offered my family the most precious gift, the opportunity for me and both of my brothers to attend this incredible university. You will never be able to comprehend how meaningful that is and how grateful we are. My parents worked so hard to ensure that my brothers and I would have more opportunities than they did growing up. And you ease this burden by gifting us with education. We are forever indebted to you. I am so inspired by the work that you and the rest of our donors at Villanova University do for the students. My goal is that one day I can pay it forward I can pay forward your kindness by helping students in situations similar to mine and the rest of the Kirby Scholars to achieve their academic and professional dreams. Thank you.
Thank you, Maura, Taylor, Adrian, Steve, Caitlin, and Jake for illustrating in such a personal way the power and impact of the Kirby Scholarships and Fellowships. Before we move on to the next scheduled speaker, some guy named Jim Kirby, I would like to ask Dominic Saulo to come to the podium. Dom is Kirby Scholar number 1, the first recipient of the initial scholarship that Mr. Kirby established back in 1999. He graduated that year from Monnoy Area High School, from Villanova University in 2003, and earned a Wharton Google EMBA in 2015. He and his family live in New York City, where he works at Google as an executive responsible for the business relationship between that company and Samsung.
First off, thank you, Chris, for everything you've done with your team to build this amazing community. I mean, I was the first one, and now you guys have a mom. That's incredible. How did that happen? You know, little did you know that early on in your career that you would be having firsthand knowledge of the difference between north of the mountain and south of the mountain, the difference between anthracite and bituminous coal, and the difference between Yuengling Premium, which is only available in Schuylkill County, and Yuengling Lager. You have truly, truly embraced Schuylkill County, and you've built a thriving community of Villanovans. And I think I can speak for everyone here. We are all so grateful to you, so thank you. And not just you. Speaking of Villanovans, and while you're ready to clap, can you please give another round of applause for the amazing speakers that we had here tonight? It is certainly a shock moving from Schuylkill County to the main line. It's incredible to see the collective success that Kirby Scholars have brought on this big stage. Suffice it to say, the impact of the Kirby Scholarship has been undeniable on our lives. Which brings me to why I'm speaking with you here tonight. From the day I met Mr. Kirby, he championed the idea of giving back to where he came from. He has given generously to the community in Monte City, and when asked to contribute to Villanova, he made sure that his contribution was going to students from Schuylkill County. He gave them the opportunity to attend his own beloved alma mater. He never forgot where he came from. As Chris mentioned in the intro, I was the very first Kirby Scholar. It's hard to believe that that was nearly 20 years ago today that I was making the decision to come to Villanova. Little did I know that that decision would lead me to an amazing college experience, inclusion in this incredible society of scholars, and really gaining a true mentor to my life. It was truly the best decision I ever made. I do have an anecdote from early on in my Villanova days. Being the first Kirby Scholar meant that processes weren't yet established. We were all just kind of figuring it out. Early on in my freshman year, Mr. Kirby was being honored by Villanova at a fancy gala, not unlike the gala here tonight. I remember being called by Anne, who was part of the team, if you have not met her, and asked to attend at the head table with Mr. and Mrs. Kirby, Father Dobbin, and other members of the university leadership. This was a daunting proposition for an 18-year-old. I would be the only student there. I mean, what do I say? What do I talk about with all of these people? But more pressing, it dawned on me that I did not even own a suit to wear to this event. So I communicated this to Anne, and within a day, she had a solution in place to get me a suit to attend the event. I was blown away. Mr. Kirby was ensuring that I was going to be comfortable at this event. Not only did this man make it possible for me to attend one of the best schools on the planet, he cared enough to put me in situations that would lead to real-world successes. Here I was, rubbing elbows with heads of industry, leadership at Villanova. The event showed me what the impact of Mr. Kirby's gift was on both me and the school as a whole. It taught me that one day I would like to learn from Mr. Kirby's example and be able to pay it forward. So tonight, with this notion of paying it forward in mind, we would like to announce that we will be following Mr. Kirby's lead in establishing a secondary fund. With the help of Chris and his team, John Mervine and I will be establishing a student fund adjacent to the Kirby Scholarship that will be comprised of contributions from graduated Kirby scholars. While this fund will be small comparatively to the overall Kirby Fund, our overall goal will be to build on what Mr. Kirby started, to help students from Schuylkill County not only get through Villanova, but to thrive here. The early focus will be to help on practical needs, such as a particularly pricey physics book, potentially securing a meal plan, or as in my example, helping buy a freshman his or her first suit. So to all the... Thank you. So to all the Kirby scholars in the audience, I ask you to think about how much you've benefited from Mr. Kirby's generosity over the years. How did Mr. Kirby help you get to where you are today? It is my belief that it is our responsibility to continue Mr. Kirby's tradition in giving to the next generation. So please don't ignore my emails when they come. Lastly, to wrap it up, thank you, Mr. Kirby. You have made this all possible for all of us. You inspire us every day, and we aspire to build on your incredible legacy here at Villanova. Thank you.
Thank you, Dom. It is now my pleasure to introduce the man whose name is on the scholarship, James C. Kirby. Not yet. Okay, all right. I first met Mr. Kirby a little over 16 years ago when I was working in the university's advancement office overseeing fundraising communications. At that point, he was considering expanding the scholarship from one student at a time from Monroe Area High School to one student per year from the school. Initially, it was just another conversation with another donor who had some goals and ideas for his prospective gift. Some very, very specific goals and ideas. Very quickly, I became well-versed on all things Monroe City. We nailed down the idea and launched the expanded scholarship in conjunction with the high school's graduation in 2002. It was a very hot evening in that gym. Adrian was a valedictorian, and Mr. Kirby was the alumni speaker, and then we threw a big party that I think people in Monroe City are still talking about. Our relationship deepened when he had the idea to expand the scholarship even further, increasing its endowed value to $4.5 million, broadening its reach to 4 nearby high schools, and establishing a separate $1.5 million endowment to support the fellowships program and the other programming we do throughout the year. It was during this process that I got to know Mr. Kirby really well. While I might have typed the proposal that he ultimately signed, every component, every nuance, every guideline was his idea. Just as he is in his professional life, he was meticulous in his research, preparation, and approach to creating this program that would bear his name. It is literally a living, breathing reflection of his values and the importance he places upon both education and travel. It was also during this process that I realized that I was no longer just the proposal writer guy. I was now the Kirby Scholars Program Coordinator at Villanova. My boss at the time said to me, "Great job, Chris. Jim is really happy with what you put together. Now you have to go make sure that we do everything we said we would." Little did I know then that I was embarking upon a journey that would be so personally and professionally fulfilling. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know every scholar, their families, and the representatives at the high schools. And this program has been a great way to ensure that I stay connected to the academic and student side of our great university. I'm happy to work together with the students to solve their problems that arise and be an advocate for them in what can be a confusing academic environment. Beyond that, everyone here knows that I plan my visits around the operating hours of Kovalonics Kibasi Shop in Shenandoah. It only took me one time to remember forever that they are closed on Mondays. And if you are nice to me, or a part of Team Kirby on campus, you usually get an aromatic care package upon my return. I am able to involve my family in Kirby Scholar activities throughout the year, and no less than 7 Kirby Scholars have been sitters for my sons, Jack and Kyle. We open our home each year to Kirby Scholars, and in turn, you open your families to mine through care packages, invitations to family celebrations, thoughtful gifts, and Christmas cards. As I said, this role does not show up in any job description or on any organizational chart, but it is some of the most meaningful work I do at Villanova. I'm grateful every day that I get to interact with such a fantastic group of students and alumni who I'm pleased to call my friends. And I consider myself blessed that Mr. Kirby would entrust to me the stewardship of his living legacy at Villanova University. We speak weekly and sometimes more often, particularly during the basketball season. I'm always amazed both at how busy he is, my schedule pales in comparison, and how he's able to keep up with the Kirby Scholars. He absorbs updates on the group and enjoys personally keeping in touch with every one of them. Villanova is fortunate to have a committed group of alumni who generously support the university, but few, if any, approach their giving in such a thoughtful way, stay so personally involved, and are so committed to developing meaningful relationships with each person impacted by their generosity. We are here tonight to celebrate not just 20 years of Kirby Scholarships, we are also here to celebrate the man whose thoughtful philanthropy has provided educational opportunities for 50 young people and counting, and in the process, created a network of folks who are carrying forward the values he holds dear. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man I consider my mentor and friend, Jim Kirby.
I honestly don't know what to say. No, it's just amazing. Is this fella, Chris Kowalski, like the best? I've always said it's an interesting proposition to think up an idea or have an idea, but it's a hell of a lot more difficult to make it happen. And I've been involved in thinking up some of the ideas, but Chris and his staff are the people that actually make it happen. And a lot of times that's more difficult than thinking it up. So thank you for that. Second thing I'd like to say is I knew I should have put clothes in the thing. You know, you could get a suit through this program. Didn't work, huh? Anyway, thank you very much, Chris, for that really nice introduction. I'd like to first take a minute and introduce my family. Some of you have met them here tonight. First is my lovely wife, Shirley. Next month, we're going to be celebrating our 60th wedding anniversary. The Pope has issued a special medal for her for putting up with me. It's got to be awarded to you next month. Over here, my son Scott and his lovely wife Rebecca. Where's Jeff and Carol? Oh, you're over here. My youngest son Jeff Kirby and his wife Carol. And 2 out of my 3 grandchildren, Brielle and Brenna, over here. Their brother Dylan recently graduated from the University of Michigan, and he's roaming around Ann Arbor someplace. He was rooting for Villanova. You know, it's really a great time to be in Philadelphia. I don't often say that, and it's not about the weather, okay? It was 75 and sunny when we left Florida yesterday. But it is about the happenings. The Eagles, they blew away my Patriots a couple of weeks ago. And then there's this little Catholic school out on the main line, which took on some of the big basketball powers and won a national championship. How's that? But most important, third, the reason to be here is to honor and congratulate the scholars that are here tonight. That's the most important reason to be in Philadelphia today. Why? First, because of who you are. Second, and what you've heard a little bit about, is for what you've accomplished. And probably even more importantly, is for what lies ahead. You've heard a little bit about what has been achieved here, but I'd like to take a second and just tell you an overall view of this group of people. As Chris said, there are 50 scholars, 14 undergraduates, 36 have graduated. 5 have gone on and finished law school. 5 have become medical doctors. 2 are currently pursuing doctorate degrees. 7 have either completed or about to complete their master's degree. And in addition, we have several teachers, engineers, account executives, and even a TV personality up in Boston. I mean, is that a remarkable record from a group of kids from the Coal region? And the 14 undergraduates are currently carrying a 3.55 grade point average out of 4. The guy you're looking at here tonight, in my freshman year, I had an English class, and I had a quarterly exam, and I earned an 18 on the exam. That's 18 out of 100, ladies and gentlemen. The cold, dreary, windy night in 1953, and I'm going home to my dorm wondering how am I going to tell my mother I flunked out of Villanova. And I lost $5 to Spike Reed, who bet me I wouldn't last a semester. Fortunately, I ran into a young law school student, and he tutored me. And after a long period of time, I actually ended up with a C average and escaped Villanova. 1957. Anyway, we have a fellowship program. 31 people have completed the fellowship program. And once again, as you've heard, they've traveled all over the globe and experienced a lot of what it's like to see what happens outside of Schuylkill County. Just occasionally what happens outside of Schuylkill County. Now, all of that stuff doesn't happen just by happenstance, and you've heard very clearly about the group of people that have helped the scholars make that happen. And I'd like to introduce those interviews. You've talked about Chris, but he had a few associates here, and I'd like to name them. First, you have Chris. Title is Assistant Vice President for Government Relations and External Affairs. Where's Ann? Ann Holsel, Director of Leadership Program. My friend Michael Gaynor, Gaynor, Director of Admissions. Michael is so busy, he's working tonight, Father, but the thing, he couldn't be here. You could have let them out and have a meal, I mean. Mary Kay Clara, where's she? Right out back there. Mary Kay. She does the numbers. She's really important. And Bonnie Beam, where's you? You're here? Yes, Bonnie. Another great numbers lady, and I want to let in on a small secret. This is actually called the Boilo and Kilbossy Club. We're going to let them explain what that means later on. Okay? And we have another group of people here that have worked very hard on this effort tonight. We have Susan McDonald. Susan's in the back. Okay? And Molly Freitag. Molly. And Julie Morrison, who's doing double duty. She worked on this thing, and tonight you got to work on somewhere else, right? You guys are tough, I'm telling you. I want to take just a couple of minutes. A lot of people ask me, how did this thing come to be? How did you think it up? Why did you do it? And it all started back in the 90s when I was serving on the Board of Trustees at Villanova. And during that time, we had a capital campaign, and we set out to raise a couple $100 million, and we raised $300 billion. Peanuts by today's standard, but it was a big deal then. So being involved in the campaign, the question was, Mr. Kirby, we need a donation. Got it? We need a donation. So what do? I didn't really know what to do, but a lot of people talked about naming a building or naming this or naming that. And honestly, that didn't do much for me. It just didn't feel right. And frankly, if I was going to do something and give a substantial amount of money, I really wanted to be personally involved. And that's when we came up with the whole idea about, maybe a scholarship. Education has been a hallmark and a really important thing in my family. My father had to quit school when he was 9 or 10 years old and go to work in a colliery as a breaker boy, making 50 cents a day. And it bothered him his entire life that he didn't have an education. My mother did finish high school, and that bothered him as well, that she was way ahead of him. But the second thing was, the coal region is a little, depressed. So we put that kind of two things together and wondered if we could come up with some kids from the coal region that might get accepted at Villanova and maybe put a scholarship together. So we tried it. We put it together. And you've heard the result. Dominic, right here, the first guy, Monoy City. And today, he works for Google. If I had mentioned Google back in the 50s, they wonder, who in the hell is Google? Remember Barney Google? No, you don't remember Barney Google. Anyway, it worked. A very successful start. So we built the program and went for additional high schools, additional scholarships. So as you all know, we have 4 a year now, and generally we have that many, and 4 additional high schools. And that's really worked very well. We were not drawing enough people out of Monoy City, although, Chris, it's coming back in terms of Monoy City. The fellowship program's a different story. Shirley and I have learned so much by traveling throughout our life, throughout the United States and around the world. And we've basically said that's a big part of our education. And in thinking about that, and thinking our good friend St. Augustine, we took a page out of his book, and I quote, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." Got it, Father? Well, we decided to give these young men and women an opportunity to read the whole book. That's why we set up the scholarship, the fellowship. And obviously, you've been doing it. So, as you know, we also wanted to keep this simple. I did a lot of research about this program. And you go to Bryn Mawr or you go to Wellesley and you look at what the requirements are. There's 14 pages of requirements, 18 forms. And the whole idea was keep it simple. What do you want to go? What are you going to do? And what are you going to learn? And you have to come back and tell people what you did. That's what we did. Last but not least, we've talked a little bit tonight about the coal region. And the coal region in the 1800s and the 1900s actually drove this country. At one point, there were 5 million tons of coal being shipped from the coal region around Monoy City to Philadelphia just to heat homes. That's how bad it was. Today, you have my father's old colliery is actually mining coal, putting it in coal cars, and selling it to China. It's unbelievable what's happened. So this evening, where's this thing? Here it is. In order to reinforce the fact that you're from the coal region, we have developed a little memento for tonight. So you all are going to get a piece of coal when you leave here. Everyone's unique. It's been hand carved in Lansford. Where's the town? Lansford, Pennsylvania. I played basketball in Lansford. I was terrible. No wonder I can't remember it. So you're going to get a piece. Now, when I was a kid, if you got coal in your stocking at Christmas, that was bad. This piece of coal is actually good, okay? So you put it on your mantle, or when you go home or your wife or your husband says, what in the hell is that? You tell them it's a piece of coal, okay? And this little group we talked about worked very hard on this piece of coal, didn't we, ladies? Anyway, I just want to say, in all sincerity, that I wish these scholars, all of you, all the best, and I hope you have a good time and continue on your magical journey. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the president of Villanova, a great supporter of this program, and a very good friend, Father Peter Donahue. Thank you. And I'm, what was that? You got the piece of coal? I'm going to take this coal so Father Peter doesn't get it.
As I was sitting there listening to the various Curvey scholars speak about their experience, I couldn't help Jim and Shirley that, you know, the two of you weren't in like a pool of tears. I mean, it was just an incredible tribute to both of you for what you've done. And it's a great pleasure, true pleasure, to be sharing in this celebration tonight. Have been a long recipient of the game. And as I walk around campus, I would have various individuals run up to me and say, I'm a Curvey scholar, can I have a selfie with you? And I would say, sure, no problem. And I finally said to Jim, you know, I have all these Curvey scholars coming up asking me for selfies, and they're all wearing these really nice jackets that say Curvey Scholar on it. And I said, why don't I have one? And he said, because you're not one. But I have one now, so thank you very much. I appreciate it. But as we look around the room tonight, it's astonishing to see the impact of your generosity has had on so many scholars and people and continues to have on the lives of our students. One of my favorite quotes from St. Augustine is, become what you are not yet. And sincerely, Villanova is a constant state of becoming. We strive to create innovative ways to teach and to engage our students, and we continue to transform our campus. And most recently, we became a national champion once again. For those of you who didn't know, Maura Gownley sang the national anthem during the Final Four game in San Antonio. She did a terrific job in that. And thanks to Jim and Shirley for that good luck charm. But, and I might add that Wildecat never looked better. I have to explain that. When Jim was on the board of trustees, one of the individuals that played Wildecat came into the board to speak about a student experience, and at the end of it he said, Wildecat needs a new outfit. This one is smelling really bad. And Jim was gracious enough to say, I'll buy a new outfit for Wildecat. So Wildecat looks terrific. That's why he was here tonight. So. But we continue to excel because like St. Augustine, I think all of us are a restless group of people. We desire to push ourselves, to pursue our potential, and to become greater in a common trait we share as Villanovans. And it is particularly apparent in the students and the alumni who are here tonight, our Curvey scholars. While you hail from the same part of this county, of this state, this Commonwealth, each of you have discovered a unique passion and have followed a path that is very different. And through your Villanova experience, you have gained much, much more. Jim, you had a vision and a foresight to see this great potential, both at Villanova and in your own hometown. Because of you, the Curvey Scholars continue to become what they are not yet. You have opened the door to an exciting world, and you have created and invited them to cross a threshold to a new beginning. And you have taught them to seize opportunities, and you, amongst all the Villanovans that I know, have done exactly what we ask you to do, to ignite change. Because you and Shirley have ignited change in the lives of at least 50 people right now. And so I thank you for everything that you've done, for what you've taught, for seizing this opportunity, and to really making a difference. And Jim's idea to begin this program has sparked or ignited change for several other alum as well. And we now have the O'Toole Scholars, who hail from Newark, New Jersey, and we have the Keating Scholars, who hail from Manhattan, New York. So you have begun something very different. So tonight, Shirley and Jim, we are pleased to present to you a book that features the memories and the reflections of every one of the 50 Curvey Scholars, as they show their appreciation for your continued impact, for how you have changed their lives. So, Maura, thank you on behalf of all of the scholars that are here tonight, and congratulations for their great success. And let me take a moment to thank you on behalf of Villanova University. You saw something, you did something, and you've changed something. To Jim and Shirley Curvey, thank you for the scholars you have brought to Villanova.
Thank you very much, Father. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program for this evening. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Mr. Curvey, for making this celebration possible. Please remember that there's an informal breakfast tomorrow from 8 to 10 at the Inn at Villanova. You all are invited. The Curveys are leaving earlier in that time frame, so for those who would like to come down and see them before they go, try to get there toward the 8 o'clock time frame. For those who would like to come a little later, we will be there till 10. And before we end tonight, we want to gather all of the current and former Curvey Scholars for a group picture here at the front. Where are we going, Paul? Right up here at the stage? Okay. So as we conclude, please make your way forward, and thank you again, and thank you again, Mr. Curvey.